Hello everyone and welcome to this stream. Today we are going to be taking a look at Substance Painter 2017.4. This is going to be a new feature update. And so today is just going to be the stream. The software is actually going to be releasing tomorrow. So be sure to check out that. One of the things that I want to mention here is just a little something about upgrades. So with this upgrade here, if you actually have let's see here. Let me just make sure I get this right here. All right, so sorry about that. So if you've purchased Substance Painter 2 license, you would need to purchase an upgrade, either a maintenance or a subscription to use this new version. Also, we're going to be having huge Black Friday sales. So you can check our website. We have a little mention of that at the top of the website when you go in there. So if you're looking to pick up Painter, tomorrow's going to be a good day to do that because, like I said, we've got some nice sales coming up. So be sure to check that out. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just start to take a look at some of the new features here that we have for Substance Painter 2017.4. We did publish 2 tutorials that are on our YouTube channel. They're also going to be live on Substance Academy as well. If you want to check there, you can check in the 2017.x update feature course. That's where we're placing all of the videos that we do if you're watching things through Substance Academy. So one of the questions we have here: subscription covers the upgrade. Yes. So if you're already on subscription, you are good to go. Everything with your upgrade. This is just for those who just have Substance Painter 2 licenses. This is kind of like the cutoff point, basically. All right. So let's take a look at what we have here. Let me just jump over here to my screen. And so right now, the first thing that I want to kind of showcase is the new Substance Painter Live Link plugins. So one of the things that we've done here with 2017.4 is we now ship the Live Link plugin. So here at the top of the UI, if I go to plugins, you'll see that we now have the new DCC Live Link. It's enabled by default. You'll notice here that we have the button icon over here. It's a Substance logo. And what we've done is we've wrapped the Unreal Engine and the Unity Live Link together in this single plugin. So now you have both of these guys available to you right here inside of Painter. You no longer have to, go to Substance, Substance Share and download the plugin. It's all part of the program now. So what we're going to illustrate here today is the ability to do a live link here with Unreal Engine. And so here I have Unreal Engine up. We have an asset here. And we're going to take a look at how we can work with this and how to set it up. So one of the first things I want to mention here is that the Live Link plugin functionality that you have here inside of Unreal Engine, that's actually part of the Substance plugin, which is really great. Again, you can get, everything that you need to get this to work in one location. So the Substance plugin is available on the UE4 marketplace. So once you have that, you'll be set to go. So you'll notice here that if I go to my plugins, I do have Substance enabled. So with that, you have the Substance plugin functionality, you have access to Substance source, and now you have access to the Live Link plugin. So with that said, once we have this set up, and as you can see here, the plugin's already enabled here inside of Painter as well, I can go ahead and send my object that I'm working on in UE4 over here to Substance Painter. So here, I'm just going to select an asset that I have here in my content browser, right-click, and choose this Send to Painter. And here, just let me make sure I can get this to go for. Take just a second here for everything to sync up. And there we go. All right, so here you can see that the entire project was sent. Now, in this particular case, this was a project that I had already been working on. So you can see that the Painter project was created, it was closed, and I reopened. So we started with a blank Substance Painter project, and I was able to pick up where I left off from that, which is actually really cool. So the way this works, just to give you an idea, if I just come over here to where I have this is my Painter, well, I'm calling it the Live Link project here. This is my UE4 project. So here's my U project. When we create the Live Link, you'll see that within your project, there's a .sp folder. And then within here, you'll see that we can now
have the .spp file, which is the Substance Painter project. So this is the project here that you can work with. Just as a kind of a tip here, if you have a project, so say like you already have a project that you would like to kind of link up with Painter, you don't want to start fresh, what you can do is take your object, send it over to Painter, and then simply replace the Painter project that's created here within your UE4 project. Just replace that with your current project, and then next time you do the send to live link, it'll update here with the full project, as you see I've done here. All right, so here at the top of the Painter UI, you'll also notice, again, like I said, that substance button here. This is changed to a UE4 icon, which indicates, obviously, that I'm working here with the UE4 Live Link. Now, if I was using Unity, you would see that this would be a Unity icon. Like I said, both of the Live Link plugins are now wrapped here into this single DCC Live Link. You'll also notice here that I have this little green button, which indicates that the live link is now enabled, and I can work back and forth between, Substance Painter. Well, not back and forth. I mean, I can work here within Painter and then send my textures over here to UE4. So, for example, let's take a look at some things here that we can do with this guy. All right, so let's come into here. Let's go back to our machinery, and let's say here that I'm going to go over to this material base and then maybe make a change of a color here. So maybe we'll try something more like kind of like a blue, something like this. So here you can see that I'm updating some of my texture. Now over here inside of UE4, you can see that an update has already started to take place. As soon as I kind of click here into the UE4 window or the viewport, it basically triggers that active viewport to go ahead and display the texture at full resolution. So the first thing you see here is like a proxy resolution, and then after we set that over, we can then, UE4 will then update the texture appropriately. So here we've just updated, our texture here, and I'm just working here on the body, so we've updated that here inside of UE4. Again, we could come into, let's say, maybe our smart materials, and maybe we'll try something here like maybe like a camouflage, maybe. So we'll try something like this. Just input here into, just bring the smart material in. Let's just right click and do a mask with color selection. Here you can see UE4 is trying to update. Here you can see again what I was talking about with this proxy resolution, that you can't really see what's happening until we activate the UE4, and then all of a sudden everything comes into focus. This is something that our integration team is actually working on, so this is how it stands of right now, but it's again one of those things we're actively working on to see if we can further improve this, make it a bit more seamless. And so with that, I'd like to also throw out a nice shout out to Josh Coyne, who's our lead integration developer who worked on and is still working on the UE4 Live Link. So thanks a lot, Josh. This is working pretty awesome. Okay, so like I said, we have our color selection here. Let's go into our pick ID, and then I'll just select an ID so that we can put this texture here in a specific location, again, based on that ID map. UE4 is starting to update. We see the low resolution, activate the viewport, and now our texture's been synced over here. So again, we've got this live link working here with UE4. Everything's installed by default, either through the DCC Live Link plugin, or once you install the Substance plugin here from the UE4 Marketplace. And from that UE4 Marketplace, the updated version of this plugin will go live tomorrow to kind of coincide with the release of 2017.4. So be on the lookout with that for our UE4 users. All right, so now let me just kind of maximize my view here just a bit. All right, and I think we could probably go ahead and just shut down UE4, and we don't want to save any of that. And so that was the live link. Now let's start to take a look at some of the other new features here that we have inside of Painter in 2017.4. So let me just kind of let me just kind of undo what I had here before. Okay, so we'll start here at kind of like this base level with this guy. Okay, so
With 2017.4, the big new feature that was added here is layer instancing. And we're going to go over that and show you how that works. Also, this is kind of, just kind of a casual look at the feature here on the live feed. But we do have some dedicated tutorials, again, covering the live link with UE4 as well as how the instancing works within Painter. So if you have any questions or kind of get lost or anything, don't worry, full tutorial is on that. It's on our YouTube channel and it's live now. Okay, so actually, before we jump right into our instancing, I also want to mention that we have supplied some new content that's shipping here with Substance Painter as well. So if we come over here to our materials, you'll notice that we have some new procedural materials. So for instance, we have this aluminum insulator. There's several of these in here that you can kind of find, but we've always tried to ship with new content, updating the content that you guys have as well. Also, as the stream goes on, if you have any questions, just post them in. Looks like Jeremy from Algorithmic is here. Jeremy is the product manager for Substance Painter. So thanks a lot, Jeremy, for hanging with me here on the live stream. So he's answering some questions here. Again, if you have any, just post them up. I'm trying to kind of watch the questions as they come in. So we'll try to understand what's happening here, and I can address any of those issues. Let's see. So we have some new materials that are shipping with Painter. If we take a look here on our blog post, we kind of have a rundown of what these textures look like. So here you can get an idea. Like I said, we have that aluminum. We also have some wood and some various other materials that are shipping with Painter now. And with that said, if we come over here to some of our procedurals. So actually here, let me switch my window here. So we're also going to have some new bitmap-based and procedural-based grunge maps. These are nice, really high quality. The team works really hard on this to, just to keep adding new content to Painter. Always is really good for us so that we can, us meaning that us users, myself included, to have some nice content that we can use. So let's take this back here to our main window, and I'll show you some of these textures here. So if we kind of look at the procedurals, let's see, we'll come in here to, well, here they are. So now you can see, I'll just kind of mouse over some of these guys here. So here's some more of these kind of grunge textures that we're shipping with now. Some good stuff in here. Okay, so like I said, new materials, new grunge maps, new content to work with. So just jump into the shelf, take a look, and see what you think. So now the next thing that we want to talk about here in this live stream is going to be the layer instancing. This is the big feature, and so it's actually really cool. So let's take a look at this here on this particular asset, and let's see here. Let me just make a little change here to my UI. Make this a little bit more user-friendly to read. Okay, so you'll notice that we have this asset here, and it's made up of these three texture sets. We have a body, here's the head, and we also have this legs here. So these guys are separated right now. And so what we've added is the ability to create some type of content here in a layer stack, and then you can instance that content, whether it be a single layer or an entire layer group. You can instance that over to other texture sets. And so making a change in the source will then obviously update all of the instances. And this basically, it really brings like kind of a cohesive kind of workflow to how we're using the materials, whether they be materials, layers, effects, and so on, so that we can get kind of, just kind of a common effect. For instance, if it's maybe like some kind of dirt effect or something like that over top of, one set, we can have it match up on all the other sets. So enough talking, let's take a look at how this actually works. So for example, let's say here that, just as a real simple example, let's come over into, let's say, our smart materials. And I'm going to grab a smart material. I'm just going to use this machinery one here. So we'll just left click, drag and drop this guy here into the layer stack. So here you can see that, well, yes, it did apply to just our body here. So what I'm going to do now is just right click on this. And here you'll see that we have an option to instantiate across texture sets. So keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift-D. So we'll use this option here.
this opens up a dialog for us that allows us to choose which texture sets that we want to work with. So here you can see that, well, we have body as the source. That's talking about this body texture set. Then we have head and legs underneath of it here. So for example, if say that, I want to instantiate this just to the legs, I can disable head, I can choose none, all, and so on. So here what I want to do is I just want to take the source, which I already have. I don't want to instantiate it there again. I want to have this copied over basically to the head and the legs. So now that we have this kind of set up, we'll click OK. And now that process is done. And we can see here that that smart material is now basically instantiated to all of my texture sets. Here you'll notice that we have this little icon. And if we just click on this, the properties panel now will show us the layer instance hierarchy for what we have set up. And you'll notice here that here we have body, machinery being the smart material or the layer group that we actually instanced. And you can see that that's actually, the hierarchy is that it's being instanced to legs and head. And I can actually click on these as well. So for example, if I click on legs, that's going to navigate me here towards to my legs texture set. And here we can see that this machinery instance is now set. This is the instance layer. Again, if I like, I can just come back here to the body machinery just to quickly navigate back to that source. So now that we have this, we can now start to make changes to these layers. And again, they're going to update across all of the texture sets where these instance copies live. So for example, what I might want to do in this case, since this is a layer group and it's made up of all these layers, one thing that's really cool about this is that since I instance a group, that means all of the content within that group, anything I change in that, it's going to automatically update. For example, we come over here and we change the color. So you can see it's all updating live here as we work because I instanced the entire group. Now, you don't have to instance only a layer group. I could have chosen to maybe instance just this Rust layer here. And to do something like that, maybe I could right click and I could instantiate across texture sets again, or I could copy the layer and then choose to paste it as a layer instance using the Control-Shift-V shortcut. So it's another option that we can do. And you can also instance layers within a single texture set. It doesn't have to be always instancing from one texture set to another. Okay, so now we've instanced this. Let's start to kind of play around with it. So for example, one of the things I might want to do is come over here and mask this with a color selection. Use my ID mask here, and let's just pick and choose to add this here in this red area of the ID. Notice that the ID is for my body, but there's also red ID here in the head as well as the legs. So we'll just pick this, and now you can see that that texture has now have been set, and that set, this color selection has been instanced to the head and the legs texture set as well. Once again, we can go back and start to, change our colors, make any changes that we want here. So if we want to maybe set this to maybe a more yellow again, we can do that. We can also come in here to our Rust, where we have some of our mask editor here, and we can start to make changes to this as well. So for example, we have this grunge texture. Maybe I can start to change some of the balance. And you can see that, just changing this mask generator, again, because it's instance, this layer is instance, because the group it is in has been instance, everything is updating for me as I work. So pretty cool there. And that's really how the layer instancing works kind of in a nutshell. It's a simple system, but it's also really powerful. Let's take a look at another example with this. So so here, let's do this. Let's create a fill layer here. And I'm just going to drag this guy up to the very top. So we'll basically override everything. And let's turn off all of our channels except for our roughness and our color. And I'll set my roughness all the way. Well, I don't know. I'll just leave it around here, I guess. And what I want to do is just come into this base color. And I'm just going to choose maybe some type of grunge map. Here, I'll use this creased here. And let's just scale it. And then let's come over here to the contrast. And let's increase our contrast. So we get something like this. Yeah, kind of a cool pattern here. But now we have this, and let's say that we now want to instance this layer. So this here will be our pattern, and here we'll come in and say that we want to instance this. So what I'm going to do here is just right-click on this guy, and again, I could instantiate across texture sets. So we'll do that, and I want to instantiate this to the head and the legs, and now you can see that it updates that entire pattern again here. So once again, if I start to make any changes here to this pattern, you can see it's updating across everything. Now what's also really cool with this is we have our projection set to UV projection. So here, if I come in and change this to say triplanar, now you can see that this is now, basically because of that reprojection in world space, this pattern's now kind of lining up with all of the texture sets. So now we get more of this kind of continuous kind of mapping to this pattern, whereas before we would have had to, copy and pasted everything, from one texture set to the other and all that. But now we can just interactively work, make changes to this. We can continue to tile and do whatever we need to do here in this source, and everything else is updated below it here. So again, you can see how the power of being take patterns and have them seamlessly kind of line up with other texture sets using triplanar projection and instancing. This is going to come very handy. Let's look at another example that I thought was pretty cool. This is a way I could see myself using this a ton. So, typically when you kind of get done with like a material, we have some dirt in here already, but we'll add some more on top of it. So one of the things I like to do when I have something like, an object like this, so if we solo it, we have the body here. And we have a bunch of different materials that we're kind of applying here into this. And to kind of further integrate everything, to make everything feel like it's all part of this, same mesh, or this, this kind of cohesive kind of blending environment, what we want to do is maybe add like something like a dirt over top of everything to really just kind of integrate everything together. So here, what we'll do, let's unsolo this and walk through this process. So we'll add a fill layer into here. This will be our dirt. And we'll just increase our roughness here. And let's see. Let's turn off our normal, emissive, and we'll leave our metal set to 0. And we'll create ourselves kind of like a dirt color, something like this. Okay, so we'll do, like I said, something like we have here. And let's see. Another thing that we'll do, we'll just right-click on this guy, and we'll add a black mask to this. Now, let's come into here and add a generator. And for the generator, we're just going to use here what we have for our mask editor. So we'll bring this guy in. And now let's kind of start to play around with the mask editor. So I think what I'm going to do here is just use this position gradient. So let's just enable our position gradient here. Let's expand our options, and you can see that what I'm working with here is just my top to bottom. So just so we can really see this work, let's take our contrast and just increase it like a lot. So we get like a really kind of hard edge here. And now if we use our top to bottom, you can see that really what I'm doing here is just doing this effect where I'm just kind of adding dirt, from the top basically, and moving it down towards the bottom. Here the contrast will just feather it a little bit, maybe do something like this. We could also introduce some right to left, and so on. But we're going to do something like this. In case you haven't seen this before, what's really driving this is our position gradient. So this is just a position map that was baked. So if you hit our bake textures, you can see here that we're able to bake a position map, and its mode was set to all axis here. So it's basically going to be an RGB image that represents the X, Y, and Z position data here for this map. And we can use that information in the mask editor, in the position gradient options here, and we can break this off into different directions, being right to left, top to bottom, front to back, and so on. So like for example, and again, we're just doing this on the body, so we're seeing it kind of in this one aspect. But what we're going to be able to do, though, is actually instance this effect so that we can have this work across all of our assets. And again, it just really help kind of, blend everything together and make all these materials that we've been working on in Painter look like this, that they're part of this kind of cohesive group, which is going to be really nice. So let's say that we have this effect so far. Let's break it up a bit. We could do that in here by something simple like just hitting our texture button, adding a grunge texture, and so on, adding some texture. We could also work with maybe subtracting out of this some of our ambient occlusion. Let's play around with that maybe. So here I'll come into my ambient occlusion, set to multiply. Let's do something like this. All right, and then just another tip, again, in case you haven't seen this or you're new to Painter, when you're working on effects like this and you're using like a mask generator, it's always helpful just to kind of view the mask that you're creating. So a quick way to do that would just be to hold down the Alt key and then and just left mouse click on the mask. And this is going to drop you into kind of this mask mode. So here, let's just solo what we're working on here in our head. And so this gives us an idea, a more clear example of what we're doing here. So again, if we drop back to our mask editor, like I said, we're working with our ambient occlusion. So here's what we had before when we were just working with our position gradient. So if we look at our top to bottom, we can now see what this is doing. Here's our front to back, so you can see where this is starting to change. So here, let's just, we kind of rotate this guy. Now you can see that if we wanted to have like basically this gradient working from the front towards the back, we can do this. And so on. What we really want to work with is really just this top to bottom. So now we get something like this. And like I said, maybe what we want to do is kind of subtract some of this ambient occlusion area from it. So here, you know, basically where this ambient occlusion is kind of blocking where some of this dirt's falling. So we get this. It's looking pretty decent. Now what we want to do is add another effect onto this. So this is going to become our effect stack. So let's add another generator. Here I'm just going to add the dirt generator. So here's what this guy looks like. You can see that because its blending mode is set to normal and 100% opacity. Here we can kind of do a slight opacity change between the two. It's overriding everything. That's fine for now. So what I'm going to do here is set this guy into maybe subtract. Okay, so now we're getting something like this. And then we'll end up just kind of playing around with just some of these settings. All right, so like I said, just kind of viewing things here in your mask is helpful. So let's just hit M on the keyboard to jump back here to our material so we can really see what this guy's doing now. So again, we've got our dirt level. So this is just kind of breaking up some of that gradient. And then we have our mask editor, which is really, you know, like I said, being driven by, you know, our gradient, where we have our top to bottom. Okay, so this is basically the overall dirt effect that we wanted to create. So now let's unsolo everything, and then we can, with this layer selected, we can right-click on this guy, and then instantiate this across our texture sets. And of course, we want this to go to our head as well as the legs. And now we have this dirt effect that's now, you know, encompassing our legs as well as our head. So let's go back to our mask editor now, and so here you can see that as we start to make a change to this guy, you can see that, you know, it's now following along with the entire mesh. So now we've got this nice dirt effect that's showing up across everything. Again, really kind of helps to, you know, just blend everything together and make everything, like I keep saying, cohesive. But it's, you know, it helps to kind of unify everything that we're working on here. Maybe we'll just play around with our contrast again. Here's our balance. So here I'm just going to decrease the balance a bit so we can really get an idea of this this effect. And here let's Alt left click, that's our mask. And let's go back into our mask editor one more time, and then just here again we've got this kind of gradient now that we can just kind of walk this dirt effect up and down based on our position gradient. So there's another kind of good use for how this system's going to work here. Okay, so with this guy, with this layer instancing, one of the things that I want to kind of mention here is at this time, you can see that what I'm really working with here is just layer data. So in this case, I'm just working with my fill layers, effects, and so on. At this time, the instancing is not working when we're actually painting. That's something that our team's working on and something that we will resolve in a future update. But for right now, if you're trying to instance like a painted layer, something that you hand painted, it's not going to work. But again, that's something the team is working to resolve. Okay, so with this though, I want to also kind of talk a little bit about some caveats that you can run into. So one question here, can we see the wireframe for a sec? Let's see. Here's the thing, in case you didn't know, you can come over here to your viewer settings and just enable wireframe. And you've got your wireframe opacity and so on. You can change color if you need to. So that was just one question someone asked. Could they see the wireframe? So here's what we have. Okay, so another thing, like I said, I wanted to talk about was just some caveats. So one of the things that can break instances. So, you know, earlier this year we released an update where we introduced this anchoring system. And so where this really differs is that with instancing, you can see that the idea is that we're able to take layer data, like we've done here, even something that's a full group, like we have here with a bunch of layers underneath of it, that, that have fill layers, they have mask generators, all this kind of stuff. We can basically kind of instance that or copy that over to other texture sets. And so that's what instances is all about, moving data from one texture set to another, or being able to, link one piece of data to another in that kind of respect. Anchors are a bit different because they're more about being able to take data and be able to use it inside of something else. So meaning that, like what we kind of showed with the anchor system was, let's say that I created some normal detail or some height detail, and I wanted to be able to take that specific channel information and feed that into a generator so that this new detail that I painted in, say, my normal map will appear as edgeware in the generator. So it's basically taking some type of data and copying and referencing that into something else. So when we look at anchors, we're talking about, referencing things. And when we talk about instancing, we're talking about, creating an instance and a source. And so both of these guys can, whether we're talking about anchors or we're talking about instances, can run into kind of having these cyclic or kind of loop errors where, they can break. So for example, just to kind of showcase that, let's come into here and let's say that, we have just a fill layer again. And let's say for this fill layer, this guy is going to be here. Let's set our roughness. Let's set our metal. We'll do it like this. Just make this bright red so we can really see what we're doing here. So here we have a layer, and we'll group this guy. So we'll say this is a demo. And we'll say this guy here is in a group like this. Now, if we just right-click this guy here, and I can basically just copy it. So here's the situation where I can copy it. And then here in the layer stack, I can just right-click again somewhere, and I can paste layer as an instance, or Control-Shift-V. And so what that does is it creates this layer instance. And you can see here that I have, my source, and then here I have this instance. Now, with the anchor system, whenever you set up your references, you could never have, the link below the reference basically, or it would break. But here, with the instance system, I can take, like, say, this instance layer, and I can drag it anywhere in the stack. Like, it can be below, or it can be above the actual source. So that's where it's kind of different in terms of workflow with the anchor system. However, if you were to take something like here, we have this source, and you can see that it's applied to this layer group, and then I take the instance and I drag and drop that here into the group itself. Here's when we start to create one of those cyclic situations that are going to break the system. And whenever this happens, you'll notice here that, you see this little icon here. It's the instance is broken. We've got this little red indicator letting you know that we've basically run into a loop here with the instance, and it's not going to work. So when this situation happens and you see this kind of red kind of line here showing up on your layer, you'll know that that's what's causing it. And to fix it, it's just a simple matter of just, breaking the loop, basically. So what we'd want to do in this case is take the instance, drag and drop it just out of that group, and now everything's okay. So again, for example, you see if I come in here and I change the color to this guy, you can see its instance is also changing. So again, if you have a layer and you instance it, you can still use that instance here in a layer stack, all within the same layer stack. You don't have to always instance something to, another texture set. You can, instance layers within a single layer stack here. Okay, so that really kind of covers everything that I wanted to really cover here in this live stream. This one's actually running a little bit short. Usually I kind of ramble on for at least an hour, but it looks like today we're going to be able to wrap this one up here within around 30 minutes. So here, before we kind of close out, I just want to take a little, just kind of look through here and just see if we can see, any questions or anything that's come up. Again, if you have any questions, just throw them out here into the the chat window, and we'll take a look. So let's see here. Just kind of reading through some of these questions. Okay, let's see. Okay, so one thing, talking about smart materials, we can also save these as a smart material. So, like for instance, if I created, this dirt here as this instance, I can, I can instance or drag in smart materials and create instances from them as well as the source. Again, just kind of running through here, just trying to see if there's any questions I can answer. Okay, so one question in here, can you isolate changes to instantiated layers so that they share a common base but have subtle differences between them? And so the answer to that question at this time is no, but I believe, and I don't want to misspeak for the development team, but I believe that that is on the list for us to have that. So for example, here, let's do this. Let's get rid of these guys. Yeah, our dirt. So here, I'll click where I have the source. I can come into the hierarchy. Let's just jump over here to the legs. And here you can see where we have this dirt instance. This guy, I can't really edit or do anything with this. So it's basically, it is just a pure instance. And I think what this question is okay, well, I do want it to be linked, but, could I make it's linked, but there's a variation to this, or can I break this link and still keep this as its own, variation? So I don't want it to be instance, but I want it to be a separate variation. And I do believe that is something the team is working on. Again, I think Jeremy is in the chat. Maybe he can clarify that, but I do think that is something the team is working on. So here's another question that's talking about, can I change the smart material tiling size? Let's see. So yes, you can, but it's not like a global control. So for example, let's say, again, I'll go back to here. Let's grab one of these camouflage materials here. So it's a smart material. Drag and drop that here into the layer stack. So smart material is nothing more than just basically a collection or a preset of your layer stack. So you can see that, when I expand the main group, what we have here is just a lot of these just all of the layers that make this up. So for instance, here at the bottom, I see this base, which is just really this is a substance fabric generator is what this is. And so to change the UV scale, you can see it's set to 8. I can just come in and change it this way. So now I'm just kind of tiling it. So there isn't a way to select this group and as on a global level, just tile everything. But what you do is just come into the group and you can have access to all the parameters. So here you can see it was set to UV projection. I may want to change this to triplanar or, again, change the scale on that. And that's holds true for all of the smart materials because they're just a simple collection of of what's in the layer stack. And so another question is, are there new standard materials in 2017.4? Yes, there is. So we can find those here underneath materials. I'm sorry, at this time, I'm not super well versed on exactly all of the ones that they are, but here are some of them that we can see. Like I know we have this one's new, this iron diamond is new. These are just substances themselves. So here, if we just drag and drop, place this guy here into the layer stack, you can see that this is a material. Using substance material mode, again, we can adjust the UV scale of this guy. So here's what it looks like. Nice high quality asset. Again, that's what the team's always striving for. But since it's a substance, we have some things we can control. We can add some weathering to this. We can enable some rust on this guy as well. Here, let's just kind of zoom in so we can see this a little bit more up close. Get something like this. Maybe change our tile down and so on. So yeah, there's several of these new materials that are shipping here. Here's another one where we have the fabric. We also have rough wood. And there's some others in here as well. So again, just kind of checking to see if there's any other questions in here. Again, I can see that, some people are asking about some future updates and so on. I don't want to get too much into that. Again, I don't want to speak too much for the dev team. One question here, Wes, can you show us some of the new Grunge Maps, please? Yes, that is a good thing to do. Let's do that. I should definitely do that because I know the team worked very hard on that, and they're actually really, really nice. Okay, so let me just to kind of showcase some of these. Let's create a grunge here. And just so we can really get a good idea of it, let's just look at it in the color. So here, let me turn on my metal and my rough. We'll just make this super rough. Let's just do that. All right, so let's come in here to our procedurals. Here, maybe we could just do grunge. And let's take a look at some of these guys that we have in here. So let's see. We'll start with maybe this guy here. So we'll put this into our base color. And right now the tiling is just set to 1, so we'll take a look at what this guy's doing. So here's one of those. We'll just kind of run through a lot of these guys and see what they look like here as we take a look. So here's another example here. These guys are going to work really well as like roughness maps or any kind of mask that you're working. A lot of nice kind of organic details within these. This one will tile it a little bit more. Here's another one here. Again, you also notice that these guys work similar to the other grunge substances we have, so they do have some parameters. For instance, here you can see I can adjust the balance, get something more like this. Again, these new maps, super, super high quality, really great addition to the grunge maps that we ship with. So it's really awesome. The team is constantly working to improve these maps. I use grunge maps a ton, so I'm pretty excited about these guys. So they're all going to have basically this balance setting, as well as this contrast. There's also some controls for flip horizontal, flip vertical. We can always invert. Then again, since these are random substances, we can adjust the seed here. Let's come into some of these other guys. Take a look. There's another one. We'll just play around with some of our balance. See, this one here I might try to change around. Let's put that into triplanar. This is going to look a lot better this way. All right, let's take a look at some more of these guys in here. This one's really nice. I think that one was already in Painter before. Let's see. This is a galvanized kind of grunge map, which is pretty cool. Here's another variation of that. This one here is a grunge leaks dirty. And again, let's just kind of play around with some of our settings here. So we've got our contrast and so on. Here we have some more leaks. This one looks really nice. Here's another one. This is a leak spots. This is good. Yeah, I'm really excited about these new grunge maps. I mean, I use the grunge maps all the time, so it's always great to get new content of this stuff here. These are looking fantastic. So here's another leaky paint. This is good. Yeah, this is fun. I'm kind of discovering it at the same time with you guys because, you know, with how the builds were coming out and working on tutorials, I didn't have a whole lot of time to really jump in and take a look at this. So, yeah, this is fun. Just, you know, exploring this as I go as well. So really good content from our team. And I think that is, I think that's pretty much all of them. Wait, some of these guys are new as well, actually. Let's take a look at some of these. Splashes, shavings, a lot of good stuff here.
think that one was from the original releases. I think this is a new one here. All right, and let's see here. Let's just keep moving through, see what else we've got. A lot of content in here. Directional heavy. Again, don't forget, we always have our kind of balance, contrast settings, and so on. And we can flip these guys. I think this one, can't remember if this one's new or not, but we'll look at it anyways. And here's another grunge stain. Pretty cool. I'm actually thinking about a project I can use this one on now. So yeah, anyways, that's going to be some of our new content that we're shipping there with Painter. So yeah, new grunge maps. You again just kind of filter them through grunge and you can see what they are here. So here, let me just kind of check through some of these questions here. Yeah, never thought I'd be excited about grunge maps, but yeah, these look good. Yeah, I agree totally. I'm super excited about them as well. So yeah, I think actually everybody, that is going to kind of close out our stream here. So about 45 minutes. So thanks everyone for joining us. Like I said, just a quick reminder, we are going to have our Black Friday sales. Go to our website, check out, you'll have all the details there, how long it's going to last and everything like that. So the new update is going to go live tomorrow. We have, 2 tutorials that are now on our YouTube channel as well. So they kind of go over everything I did here in the live stream. So jump in, take a look. Like I said, with the Substance Painter, if you had Substance Painter 2 license, this is kind of like a cutoff point to where this is going to be an upgrade unless you're already on Substance subscription and so on. And so I think that pretty much covers everything. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us. I'd like to say special thanks to Jeremy from Algorithmic for joining me here on the stream. It was so great to have him here answering some questions. And also, as always, I like to just take a little bit of a moment to do a special shout out to the Substance Painter team back in France. Guys, this is awesome. The layer instancing is awesome. I had a wonderful time working with it to make the tutorials. I'm at a loss of words how good you guys are at what you do. So thanks very much for working hard and providing these tools for everybody. And so also, for all my friends here in the U.S., have a good Thanksgiving, safe travels, and I will see you next time. Take care.